In our kitchens, we live to eat, but on the trail, we eat to live. And if you are what you eat, then I should be a giant block of ramen right about now. But if I could be what I cook with, I'd be lightweight, thrifty, and all there. Because today I finally got my base cooking set put together. And I did it all for under 50 bucks. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Welcome to my channel. My name's Smitty. So, cook sets. Why are they important? Well, obviously you have to be eating when you're out there on the trail or out backpacking, camping, canoeing, whatever, what have you. You gotta have a way to have nourishment into your body. And unless you want to go stoveless, which I'm not knocking at all, I've done it once and it wasn't awful. But if you want to be able to sit back and enjoy a nice hot meal at the end of a chilly day, it helps to have some form of cooking apparatus. Now, you can't be dragging along a giant convection oven, obviously. Now, when you're on a long distance hike and weight actually kind of matters to your overall happiness and enjoyment of the trail, it pays to go lighter. So while there are some great cooking sets out there that I'm not trying to diss at all, what I am going to be talking about is my ultra light cook set. If you want to be able to fry up some pancakes and bacon on a nice big Coleman griddle, you know, out of the back of your truck when you're going out camping on the lake for a weekend, by all means, I'm not saying that that's the wrong way to do it, but I'm not going to want to put that Coleman griddle in my backpack when I'm hiking for 2,000 miles uphill both ways. So a little bit about the history of my experiences with cook stoves. I have been using a lot of different kinds of cooking equipment out there on the trail, backpacking, what have you, for, well, let's see, I started going out camping when I was probably about 12 years old, and so I've gotten a lot of chances to try a lot of different things. And believe it or not, I still have my very first mess kit. That's right, this is the mess kit. Here's my name right there, P. Smith. This is the mess kit that I carried when I was probably about 12 years old. It's an old Coleman little cook set that I took when I was in Cub Scouts. And these things are pretty great. If you're, new to backpacking and you want to go out and grab it, the bottom piece comes apart and it has a little wing nut there and it turns into a frying pan. I've burned many a tiny pizza in this frying pan. You've got a plate for the top, and then it's got a nice pot there and a cup for the coffee that I didn't drink when I was that age. And that thing served me well, honestly, until I got out of high school. I took this with me on my backpacking trip, both my backpacking trips out to Hell's Canyon when I was 14 and 15 years old, and it did just fine. But then again, I was also hiking with a very large pack. My entire weight, if I remember correctly, when I was 14, started off at like 53 pounds, and I think I might have gotten it down to maybe 35, maybe, probably 40, I don't remember. But when I decided I was going to do the Appalachian Trail, I knew I was going to need something a little bit lighter, a little bit easier to use, and I was going to have to figure out what my next system was going to be to best utilize the space in my pack. So the next set I got, I actually don't have the full set because I lost a couple of the pieces when I moved back to Tennessee from Texas. But I initially had gotten something similar to that where it had a little tea kettle in the middle and it was made out of aluminum. And the stove that I got to go with it and took on a couple of trips was actually this titanium Emberlit. Emberlit is a good company. I love this stove. It's great because basically what it is a collapsible flat packing stove. When it comes to you, it's a bunch of these pieces and you can pack them down flat, but when you put them together, you get something that looks a little bit like this. Now, the pros of an Emberlit stove is that it is a solid fuel. It is a solid fuel piece. And basically what you do is you take your small kindling and such and you build a small fire in here. You got your air holes there and the heat lifts and causes draft like in a chimney. And so the nice thing about this is as long as you have wood nearby, you've got a fuel source. You don't have to carry extra fuel in your pack. The downside is it takes a while to light. Unless you get really, really good at starting fires, you've got to be able to start a fire pretty quickly, and then you have to boil your water. So it's not nearly as fast as some of these. It's not as fast as taking a propane tank and clicking it on and calling it good. So I like to keep that as sort of my emergency bug out stove because I know there are going to be situations where I will use it. It's a great emergency stove to have on hand. I really like it. If you're going to buy one, I would spend the extra $30 to $40 to get the titanium one because it does make quite a bit of difference. I have a buddy who bought one before I did. He got the stainless steel and we compared them. It's significantly lighter. Definitely worth the extra couple bucks to buy the titanium version. That being said, I had a little bit of a change of heart because it's been about 2 years since I bought this stove. I've gotten to try it a couple times, and since then, my plans to hike the AT have evolved a little bit. I used to be one of those people who like to do things like super old school, old fashioned trekker, you know, I'm really into history and that kind of thing. And I think that has a place, and I do enjoy doing it, but that's for reenacting. For being comfortable on the trail, I want to make sure that I am not overworking myself when I don't have to. And so that's why I decided to switch to an alcohol stove. Now the reason I decided to switch to an alcohol stove over another form of stove is because the nice thing about alcohol stoves is you don't have to have a special camping setup or be somewhere that sells camping gear to be able to fuel it. One of the problems that I've always had fundamentally with propane stoves or any of the gas stoves where you have to have a gas canister is that at some point you will run out of fuel and you can't just go into any store and pick fuel up. Whereas you look at alcohol, whether you're doing isopropyl or another form of sterilizing alcohol, you can find that in most drugstore sections of most stores. Dollar General has it, CVS, Walgreens, any of those kind of pharmacy places will have it, Walmart will have it, a lot of gas stations have it now. And so while on the AT you might be able to find canisters at gas stations and all that, I didn't want to take the risk if I decided to go hike another trail where that wasn't so common. So I decided to go alcohol just because it burns clean, it's easy to get, and it's fairly low fuss. There's a lot less fuss involved than there is with the Emberlit, that's for sure. Then I had to decide what kind I was going to get. Now I was considering going with a titanium version that had been highly recommended on Amazon, but my requirements were that it had to be light enough that my whole cook set wound up being a pound or under, and I thought I was going to be pushing that with some of the other models out there. Now this stove was made by a young man named Ryan Cascade who said that he had made a batch of 10 of them and he was looking for people who might be interested. He sold this to me for $15 as opposed to the $32 I was going to send for a very similar product made out of titanium. It's made out of aluminum and is filled with fiberglass, so that way it not only soaks up the alcohol and doesn't dissipate it as much as a straight open top, it also gives it some rigidity. And this thing is solid, guys. I mean, it's very well built. I was very pleased. I was very skeptical initially when I decided, you know what, I'm going to try it. I got it, and I have had zero complaints on it so far. The nice thing about this one is that it has the holes, and the holes are actually drilled at a little bit of an angle, so it gets a little bit of a vortex thing going on. And it has, like I said, you probably can see the fiberglass in there. And probably one of my favorite features about this stove is that it does weigh less than 2 ounces. It's actually 1.8 ounces for this entire setup. Very pleased with it. But you can't cook on a cook stove unless you've got other utensils. So what else did I decide to add to my base cook setup? Excuse me. Well, if my hiccup was any indication, I actually had to eat a whole lot of queso because I needed this lid. Now the thing about this cook stove is it does require a priming pan. It doesn't necessarily require it, but it makes it a lot easier. So you fill this up with alcohol, and then you have to fill the priming pan with a little bit of alcohol. You light the priming pan, and what that does is it heats up the entire canister, so the alcohol starts to evaporate through these holes, and then it catches, and it takes a lot less time to get it going that way, and it helps you keep from spilling a little bit here and there. So that's my priming pan. Just took the Tostitos lid off of a queso dip and called it good. That piece has like no weight to it all, and it's rigid and durable, so I know it's going to hold up for the entire trail. And if it doesn't, I can always replace it. Now you can't just put the pot directly on top of that. You got to have something to be stable over top of it. So I actually borrowed some of the pieces from my Emberlit, which are just the 2 rods that you use for the pot stand on that model. Slot them in together and it becomes a little cross stand. And the best part about this design is all I have to do is set it right on top of that, and I get flames coming up on all sides. And that gives me just enough space to be as efficient as I possibly can be with the heat that is being provided by the jet streams. And speaking of pot, No backpacker's cook set will be complete without their trusty handy dandy cook pot. Now the cook pot that I decided to go with is a Toaks. Highly recommend their brand. They're very sound in construction. This is a titanium 450 milliliter pot. It came, and honestly when I opened it up I thought it was a little small, but this thing does hold 2 cups of water, and this thing heats up quick. I mean quick, a lot faster than I was anticipating, which actually matters when you're trying to get your food done so you can just sit back and relax for the rest of the hour before you gotta get back on the trail again. It comes with a nice mesh bag that really doesn't weigh anything at all, and the best part about this is it's just the right size that I can fit my stove straight inside of it, so I don't have to worry about that bouncing around in my pack. Sadly, the Tostitos lid does not fit inside of it, but I can live with that because it will fit in the bottom of the sack. Now by itself, this does weigh 3.1 ounces, right at about, but when you consider how light everything else has been in the pack, I'm alright with that. And so far we're still staying well under the pound limit that I set for myself. So when I put the whole thing away, I just put my priming pan straight in the bottom, put the cup straight on top of that, drop/gently place my stove inside the pot, and then with great panache I place the lid on top of the pot. Cinch it up tight, and there I have it. That's most of my cook set. Now the rest of the stuff that goes along with that, I can all fit inside this pouch. So this pouch is the original home of the other item that I pulled off, and that is my windscreen. I decided to go with this style because it's tall, and the neat thing about this particular one is that it actually comes with panels that you can pull apart. So if you don't need to use the extra panels, you can take them off. I don't happen to need all of the panels, so I was able to eliminate that much weight out of the entire kit. All you have to do is set it around, and I've got a nice little windscreen. It gets plenty of wind clearance at the bottom, so you can still get that updraft with the heat, and it collapses down like an accordion to fit perfectly inside that little bag. Now because I eliminated those other 2 pieces, I have a little bit more space in the bag. That's where I put all the long things, like the braces for the pot, as well as my 2 Light by Fire sporks. And you might say, 2? That's a little excessive. Well yeah, but so is getting a 6-liter water filter. That's just kind of how I roll. Now for real though, sharing is caring. It's not that much extra weight, and who knows, down the road I might need to share my food with somebody, or somebody might need a spork. So for the 0.3 ounce difference that it makes, I'm okay with that. And I put all that inside the bag, and there we have it. That's the second part of my cook kit. That's basically it. And the whole thing runs off of isopropyl alcohol. Now you can also use heat, which I haven't tested yet, but I hear it's actually a little bit better, so I might try to get my hands on some of that. But in a pinch, you run into the dollar store at the local town that you're running to, just grab one of these off the shelf down by all of their toothbrushes and really weird, smelling $2 soaps, and there you have it. You got fuel, and this thing will last me for quite a while. So the first thing we're going to do is put in our priming pan. We're going to take a little bit of our alcohol, and we're just going to fill the bottom of that with just enough that it'll start the burn. The next step is going to be to secure the windscreen. Now that we've gotten that taken care of, we're going to put in our stove, which has been filled with about 1.5 ounces of alcohol. Next, we light the priming pan. As that alcohol burns off, it will warm up the alcohol in the pan. Once the top catches, it'll take a little bit of time, but eventually we'll get our little jets of flame. Now that you can see the individual jet streams coming out, we're going to very carefully put our cross pieces on top. Then on top of that, we simply place our pot. Cover it up with a windscreen so that way a breeze cannot interfere with your cooking. Place a lid on, and that's really all there is to it. Now to put it out, it's actually not that difficult. All we're going to do is we're going to remove the pot and then give it a puff. And you can drain the excess alcohol out of the bottom, or you can just let it evaporate out. So I said at the very beginning of all this that I was going to try to make a shout out for my thankful person of the day, the person that I'm thankful for during this episode. And in this episode, I'd like to say I am thankful for Ryan Cascade, the gentleman who made me this stove. And I'm thankful for him because he is an active duty soldier who is currently stationed in North Carolina. He has been making these stoves on the side to make himself a little extra scratch. I really appreciate all of the work and detail that he put into making this. It's well constructed, it's not just slapped together, he really took his time on it. So if you need a new stove, I highly recommend checking out Ryan's page, linked in the description below. Makes quality stoves, makes fantastic stuff, and you get to support a young veteran entrepreneur as he pursues his goals. And you get to say a little bit of a thank you to someone who has given up so much for us, for our freedoms, and for our countries. Nothing that I say will ever be able to grasp the gravity of how much we owe these young men and women who are laying everything out on the line and sacrificing so much, their youth, and in many cases their lives. But you can help Ryan today by picking up one of his stoves. I highly recommend it. Check it out in the description below. So Ryan Cascade, I'm thankful for you. You're my hero. And of course, the scripture for today comes from Psalm 118, verse 24. This is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So I appreciate you taking the time to check out my cook stove. I hope to see you at the next adventure. But until that happens, I hope that you guys have a fantastic day, evening, night, whatever it happens to be. My name is Smitty, and I'll see you on our next adventure.